Ladies and gentlemen, how do you spot the person sitting right beside you in a room who harbors envy, or the one who's weaving webs of falsehood to manipulate you? These subtle forces often lurk in places you least expect, masked by smiles and gestures of kindness. But today, we're here to uncover the truth. Envy is not always loud, nor is falsehood always obvious. Yet both can destroy relationships, harm self-confidence, and poison environments. You might think you know who the envious or deceitful individuals are, but in reality, these traits wear many disguises. And the danger is, if left unrecognized, they can slowly erode your trust, your relationships, and your peace of mind. So, let's dive into the art of recognizing these traits before they even get the chance to harm you. The first telltale sign is something we often overlook: insincere compliments. Picture this. Someone approaches you and offers praise, but the words feel hollow, calculated, as though they're pointing out your success in a way that makes you uncomfortable. It might sound like praise on the surface, but deep down, it feels more like a veiled attempt to diminish your achievement. Recognizing it is key. Understand that when compliments feel forced or exaggerated, they might not be what they seem. Next, let's talk about falsehoods, the art of mixing truth with lies. Have you ever encountered someone who tells you something that feels half right, but leaves you questioning their motive? They share a piece of information laced with truth, but there's something off about it. The lie is buried beneath a small sliver of reality, making it hard to differentiate between what's genuine and what's fabricated. Falsehoods often come in these deceptive, mixed forms. Enough truth to hook you in, but enough falsehood to steer you in the wrong direction. Then there's the subtle sabotage, the silent knife in the back. It's when someone pretends to be your friend, but deep down wishes to see you fail. They offer advice that seems helpful at first, only for it to result in failure or confusion. Their words, disguised as wisdom, serve only to pull the rug from under your feet when you least expect it. If you start noticing this pattern, it's time to step back and evaluate their true motives. Consistency is another important trait that reveals a lot about envy and deceit. People who harbor these feelings often behave in erratic ways. One moment they're your best friend, showering you with compliments. The next, they're cold and distant. That inconsistency in behavior is a dead giveaway that something's not quite right. Envy and falsehood don't settle easily into the flow of truth, so they present themselves in waves, sometimes warm, sometimes icy. Emotional manipulation is a powerful weapon that many use when they can't directly defeat you. Watch out for those who prey on your emotions. Envious or deceitful individuals know how to push your buttons, often using guilt, fear, or insecurity to control your reactions and decisions. They make you feel responsible for things that aren't yours to carry. The person who consistently manipulates your emotions to their advantage is someone whose true intentions should be questioned. Finally, competition disguised as concern. This is one of the most insidious forms of envy. Someone might act like they care about your success, constantly measuring themselves against your progress, trying to one-up you in every way. They may pose as your mentor or confidant, but secretly want to see themselves ahead of you. Watch for those who seem to care, but always end up comparing their achievements to yours, attempting to shift the spotlight back to themselves. In closing, envy and falsehood are not always the loudest voices in the room, but their impact is the most lasting. They creep into our lives, subtly undermining our relationships and trust. However, recognizing these traits is the first step toward protecting ourselves. Let us be vigilant. Let us trust our instincts, because when we recognize envy and falsehood in others, we regain our power, our peace, and our trust in those who truly deserve it. Thank you Imagine walking into a room feeling accomplished, and as you share a recent achievement, someone quickly responds with what seems to be an overly enthusiastic compliment. "Wow, that's incredible. How did you even manage to pull that off? I could never do something like that." At first glance, it seems like a genuine compliment, right? However, something about it doesn't sit right with you. There's a weird discomfort in the way the praise is delivered, a subtle edge that makes you wonder, is this person truly happy for me, or is there something else at play? Compliments are a natural part of human interaction. They help build connections, create camaraderie, and validate our accomplishments. But what happens when a compliment doesn't feel warm, but rather feels like it has an underlying tone of insincerity or even hidden resentment? That's where envy hides. Envy often disguises itself behind the mask of exaggerated, perhaps even overly rehearsed compliments. These compliments may seem genuine on the surface, but if you take a step back and evaluate them carefully, you might realize they're more about masking a deeper, uncomfortable emotion than celebrating your success. When we're dealing with envy, it can be particularly challenging to spot because it's not always overt. Unlike other negative emotions that can be easily recognized, envy tends to slip under the radar, hiding behind a smile or kind words. The envious person might compliment your achievement, but the compliment feels more like a comparison than true praise. They're not necessarily celebrating your win. Instead, they're acknowledging it in a way that subtly reflects their own feelings of inadequacy or frustration. For example, they might say something like, "Wow, you've really done well. I can't believe how far you've come." But the words feel strained. The person may be trying to disguise their jealousy, but what they're really saying underneath is, "I wish I could be where you are," or "Why not me?" It's almost as if they're simultaneously admiring your success while resenting it. The nature of this insincerity is rooted in the emotional discomfort the envious person feels when confronted with someone else's success. It's not just that they feel left behind, it's that your success serves as a painful reminder of their perceived lack of success, causing them to mask their true feelings with false praise. Envy isn't always as loud as we might expect, and often it's buried beneath the surface, but those subtle signs in the way they speak, the hesitation, the strained enthusiasm, can be a clue. Moreover, envy manifests itself in compliments that feel unbalanced. When someone is envious of you, their praise often feels like it's either exaggerated beyond belief or oddly focused on the smallest of details. Rather than giving you a well-rounded compliment that reflects your whole effort, they might hone in on an aspect that they perceive as the most impressive, or that highlights what they themselves lack. For example, someone may praise the very thing they feel insecure about, like your ability to juggle multiple tasks when they struggle with time management. While it may seem like a genuine compliment, the reality is that they're using your success as a mirror to their own deficiencies. It's less about recognizing your worth and more about them grappling with their feelings of inadequacy. The problem with this kind of envy is that it's often unspoken. The envious person may never outright express their jealousy or dissatisfaction. Instead, it's a quiet, insidious emotion that weaves itself into their behavior and interactions with you. You might find yourself second-guessing the authenticity of their praise. But unless you've trained yourself to recognize these signs, you may brush it off and continue to engage with them as if nothing is wrong. In the worst cases, this form of envy can lead to a toxic cycle. The more you achieve, the more exaggerated their compliments become, but at the same time, the more distant and withdrawn they may feel from you. Their growing resentment may not be something they express directly, but it may show up in passive-aggressive behavior, subtle undermining of your achievements, or distancing themselves when you need them most. What started as a simple compliment becomes a tool for them to keep up appearances while quietly resenting you for the things they feel they lack. So, how do we navigate this? The first step is to be aware of the signs. If a compliment feels too extravagant, exaggerated, or lacks genuine warmth, don't dismiss it immediately, but instead take note of how it makes you feel. Ask yourself if it truly feels like the person is celebrating your success, or if their words are tinged with something more unsettling. Trust your instincts. You might not always be able to pinpoint envy right away, but learning to recognize when something feels off is the key to understanding where someone's true feelings lie. Ultimately, recognizing envy disguised as compliments isn't about becoming paranoid or distrusting every kind word people offer. Instead, it's about understanding that envy can appear in subtle forms, often hiding behind what seems like kindness. By recognizing these patterns, you can protect your peace and avoid falling into the trap of trying to win the approval of someone who may never truly be happy for your success. Deception often isn't a straightforward, blatant lie. It can come wrapped in layers of truth, making it all the more difficult to uncover. One of the most insidious forms of falsehood is when people mix a little bit of truth with lies, making it hard to discern where the truth ends and the falsehood begins. The reality is that lies, when interwoven with fragments of truth, become far more convincing and dangerous. In these situations, the deceiver's goal isn't necessarily to fabricate an entirely false story, but to twist reality just enough to serve their own purposes. This blend of truth and falsehood often leaves the listener unsure of what to believe, which is exactly the manipulator's intention. A person who tells you something that is partly true but ultimately misleading can make you question your own perceptions. For instance, someone might say, "I saw Jane at the store yesterday and she was talking about how much trouble she's been having with her project at work," only to slip in a fabricated detail later by adding, "She even mentioned that she's thinking of quitting soon because things are just too overwhelming." The first part of the statement, the mention of Jane being at the store and discussing her struggles, is true, but the addition of her thinking about quitting is a fabrication. This leaves the listener unsure of which part of the information is authentic, creating a sense of doubt and confusion. While the lie is relatively small in the grand scheme of things, it's enough to make the listener question Jane's situation or even her character. The deceiver uses a kernel of truth as bait, and once the listener takes it, they are led to a conclusion that is not entirely true. This is why falsehoods mixed with truths are so effective. They leverage the trust we place in information that appears factual. The human mind is naturally inclined to accept the truth, especially when we're presented with something that seems plausible. Our brains are wired to fill in gaps. And when someone we trust presents us with partial truths, we're more likely to accept the entire story as valid, even if parts of it are entirely fabricated. It's easier to accept a story that has a familiar, truthful element because it provides a sense of security. The challenge arises when that truth is used to validate something untrue, and we fail to critically examine all the details. This tactic also has a deeper emotional impact. When falsehoods are mingled with truth, the deception feels less like an intentional manipulation and more like an innocent mistake. The deceiver can use this method to maintain a sense of credibility. If someone were to be caught in a lie that is completely false, it would be far easier to expose them and call their integrity into question. But by inserting a bit of truth into the mix, the liar can appear as though they are simply sharing an observation, making their deceit less apparent and harder to call out. This strategic blending of truth and lies creates a facade of honesty, a barrier between the deceiver and the truth seeker. It forces the listener to question their own ability to differentiate between what's real and what's not. Moreover, people who use this technique can avoid direct confrontation If someone points out a discrepancy or a falsehood, the deceiver can simply explain it away by pointing to the parts of their statement that were truthful. Well, I did see Jane at the store, and she was discussing her project, they might say. In this way, they maintain their credibility while obscuring the lie. It becomes a matter of trust. The listener is less likely to question the individual's character because they're anchored in the real, tangible truth that was shared, which leads them to dismiss the false details as simple misunderstandings or embellishments. The danger of these mixed truths is not just the immediate confusion they create, but the long-term effects on relationships and trust. When we allow someone to deceive us by blending truth with lies, it diminishes our ability to trust our own judgments. Over time, these types of manipulations can erode confidence in our decision-making skills and make us second-guess our understanding of situations. We may start to wonder whether we truly know what's happening around us, or if we're always missing something critical as we are trained to rely on the mixture of truth and lies. Furthermore, this form of deception is particularly damaging in close relationships. The closer we are to someone, the more likely we are to believe their words without questioning them. If someone we trust is repeatedly telling us things that are only half true, we might not immediately recognize the patterns of deception. The emotional toll can be immense because we're left feeling betrayed not by a single falsehood, but by a series of small, incremental lies that eventually distort our view of the person. By then, the relationship might have already been strained, and it's harder to untangle the web of confusion that the deceiver has woven. To defend against this type of deception, we must become more attuned to the inconsistencies in people's stories. We need to learn to listen carefully and ask questions that dig deeper into the layers of truth. It's not just about accepting what's presented to us at face value, but examining the full context, considering the motivations behind the person's words, and seeking the whole picture. When we allow ourselves to critically engage with information, especially when it feels too carefully constructed or suspiciously convenient, we can more easily separate the truth from the falsehood and protect ourselves from manipulation. When dealing with envy, one of the most subtle and dangerous tactics an envious person may employ is the act of sabotage, often disguised as assistance or advice. This type of sabotage is not always aggressive or overt, but is instead often masked as something seemingly helpful. The person who harbors envy might present themselves as a mentor, a well-wisher, or a friend, but in reality their advice is designed to set you up for failure or cause you to second-guess your decisions. It may not be a direct attack on your efforts, but it serves to undermine your success and cast doubt on your capabilities. This insidious form of sabotage can be especially difficult to identify because it's wrapped in a cloak of seemingly good intentions. The first key element of this type of sabotage is the way it is delivered. Someone who wishes to see you fail will often present their advice or guidance in a way that appears caring or concerned. They might say things like, "I think you should reconsider your approach," or "Are you sure you're doing this the right way?" While these comments seem like helpful suggestions at first glance, they are often designed to make you question your judgment, your abilities, or your confidence in your path forward. The envious person knows that self-doubt is one of the easiest ways to derail someone's progress, and by planting seeds of uncertainty, they aim to reduce your belief in your own decisions and actions. This kind of sabotage is particularly effective because it's subtle. Unlike a more obvious form of criticism, which you might dismiss or confront head-on, these backhanded suggestions are hard to challenge. They don't overtly criticize you, but instead they encourage you to doubt your judgment, making you feel like maybe you're missing something or making the wrong choices. They often present themselves as an alternative perspective or a word of caution, leaving you with the impression that they're looking out for your best interests. However, underneath the surface, their true intention is to undermine your confidence, slow your progress, or direct you away from the path you've chosen. What makes this form of sabotage even more damaging is the trust and vulnerability that it exploits. When you confide in someone about your plans, ideas, or goals, you are showing them a part of yourself that is often private and precious. In doing so, you are giving them the opportunity to guide and support you. The person who is envious knows this, and they use your trust to manipulate the situation. They might suggest changes to your plans that seem reasonable on the surface, but when implemented, those changes can lead to complications, delays, or even failure. Their advice isn't necessarily bad, it's just not tailored to your strengths or your vision. In many cases, it may lead you down a path that takes longer to reach your goal, or worse, it might divert you entirely from your true ambitions. This sabotage can also manifest in more passive forms. For instance, the envious person might withhold key information that could help you or fail to provide the support they initially promised. They may casually mention an important detail that you weren't aware of, but in a way that leaves you feeling like you should have already known it, or worse, like you're the one at fault for not realizing it sooner. By withholding information or offering it too late, they add unnecessary hurdles to your journey, making your progress more difficult than it needs to be. These actions can be subtle enough that you might not immediately recognize them as sabotage, but the cumulative effect is that your efforts are hampered and your trust in your own decision-making abilities is shaken. Another form of sabotage can come in the shape of backhanded support. A person might appear to be helping you, offering their time and energy, but their actions are more about ensuring they maintain control over the situation or positioning themselves as the one who rescued you when things went wrong. They may act as though they are there for you, but their involvement is often more about asserting their superiority or undermining your independence. By positioning themselves as the savior, they can feed into your dependence on them, making you question whether you can succeed without their help or advice. Over time, this can erode your confidence in your ability to achieve things on your own, making you more reliant on their guidance and their control. Moreover, the envious person might use comparisons as a form of sabotage. They might say things like, well, I know someone who tried something similar and it didn't work out for them. Or people in your position usually face a lot of setbacks. These types of comments aren't merely statements of fact. They are designed to create doubt by highlighting potential obstacles or failures, rather than focusing on the potential for success. By introducing doubt about your chances or emphasizing the struggles of others, the envious person discourages you from fully committing to your goals. They are essentially planting a narrative of failure, one that makes you more likely to hesitate, rethink your decisions, or ultimately give up. All of these forms of sabotage stem from a deep-seated envy of your success or potential. Rather than supporting you as you grow and achieve, the envious person seeks to slow you down, derail your efforts, or keep you from reaching your full potential. Their actions may not always be immediately obvious, but over time you may start to notice a pattern of undermining behavior. You may feel like your achievements are always met with a mixture of praise and critique, but not in a way that genuinely helps you improve. Instead, it keeps you in a constant state of second-guessing and uncertainty. The key to identifying this type of sabotage is to recognize when advice or assistance starts to feel more like a roadblock than a help. If the person giving the advice or support seems to subtly steer you away from your goals, or if you find that their suggestions often lead to unnecessary setbacks, it may be time to reassess their true intentions and distance yourself from their influence. When we think about consistency, we often imagine people who show up regularly in our lives, whose actions match their words, and who act with a clear sense of predictability. This consistency in behavior helps us trust others and understand their intentions. However, when dealing with individuals who may harbor envy or deceit, consistency becomes a key indicator of something much more sinister. People who are driven by falsehoods or envious emotions often exhibit erratic and inconsistent behavior that leaves those around them feeling confused, uncertain, or unsure of their true intentions. In relationships, whether personal or professional, consistency creates a sense of security. We rely on the predictability of people's actions to guide our interactions with them, and when those actions shift unpredictably, we start to question their authenticity. The person who behaves inconsistently does not adhere to the same set of values or actions across situations. One moment they may appear warm and friendly, offering you praise or support. The next, they are distant, cold, or even dismissive. This unpredictability creates a sense of unease because it breaks down the trust we've built. It leaves us wondering if their kindness was genuine or if it was just a temporary mask to hide deeper feelings of resentment or envy. For example, consider a person who is kind and supportive when you're succeeding, offering you compliments, celebrating your wins, or even offering help. Their actions make you feel valued and appreciated, and you start to think of them as a friend or ally. But when you hit a rough patch or face a setback, their behavior shifts. Suddenly, they are unavailable, indifferent, or even critical. They may make backhanded remarks, minimize your struggles, or act like your challenges are. This inconsistency can be disorienting because it contrasts sharply with the support they once offered. The warm words and gestures they previously extended now feel like they were just a facade, designed to keep you close while hiding their true feelings of envy or disdain. The shift in behavior may leave you wondering if their previous kindness was ever real, or if it was just a tool to manipulate you into believing they were on your side. In some cases, this inconsistency is subtle. It's not about extreme mood swings or overt hostility, but rather a small change in how they interact with you. One day they may share in your excitement, while the next they seem detached, uninterested, or even slightly critical. These small inconsistencies are the warning signs that something may be off. They suggest that the person is not acting out of genuine care or interest, but instead is reacting to your success or challenges based on their own emotional state. This inconsistency is particularly dangerous because it's not always clear why it's happening. You might question yourself, did I say something wrong? Did I do something that upset them? This confusion leaves you in a position of doubt, unable to make sense of why their behavior has changed. In reality, their behavior is inconsistent because they are reacting to their own feelings of envy or jealousy, which are triggered by your success, growth, or good fortune. The emotional impact of this kind of inconsistency can be profound. When someone we trust behaves inconsistently, we feel a sense of betrayal and confusion. We start to question whether we misinterpreted their behavior in the past or whether they were ever truly genuine with us. This emotional whiplash can cause us to second-guess our judgment and doubt the authenticity of other relationships. It erodes the foundation of trust that is essential to any meaningful connection. And the more this inconsistent behavior occurs, the more we begin to guard ourselves emotionally, which can lead to feelings of isolation and loneliness. The inconsistent person has left us in a place where we no longer know where we stand with them, and this ambiguity keeps us from fully opening up to others. In addition to the personal impact, inconsistency can also affect our ability to make decisions. If someone you rely on for advice or feedback suddenly shifts from supportive to distant, it can leave you questioning your own choices. You might feel torn between pursuing your goals or second-guessing them because of the mixed signals you're receiving. If their behavior is unpredictable, you begin to doubt whether you should trust their guidance, further complicating your path forward. This can be especially damaging if the person holds a position of authority or influence in your life, such as a mentor, colleague, or close friend. The inconsistency doesn't just impact your emotions, but also your ability to move forward with confidence. Another key aspect of inconsistency in behavior is that it makes it harder for you to determine the true nature of your relationship with the person. Is this someone you can rely on for support, or are they someone who will only show up when it's convenient for them? Is their kindness genuine, or is it merely a strategy to maintain control over you while they silently harbor negative feelings? This constant uncertainty puts you in a position where you feel you have to continually reassess your relationship with them, leaving you on edge, waiting for the next shift in their behavior. Ultimately, the erratic behavior of someone driven by envy or deceit can create an atmosphere of instability that makes it difficult for you to trust your own perceptions. The confusion and uncertainty they create make it harder for you to navigate the relationship, forcing you to remain on high alert, which is emotionally exhausting. Consistency is not just a sign of trustworthiness. It's a sign of genuine care and interest. When that consistency disappears, it signals that something is amiss, and it may be a reflection of envy or hidden agendas. Recognizing this inconsistency is crucial for protecting yourself and your emotional well-being, allowing you to distance yourself from those whose motives are unclear or harmful. In conclusion, recognizing the subtle signs of envy and falsehood in others is not always straightforward. The most deceptive individuals often disguise their envy behind compliments, mixed truths, passive-aggressive sabotage, and inconsistent behavior. It is through understanding these patterns, by noticing when praise feels hollow, when advice seems designed to derail you, or when someone's behavior becomes unpredictable, that we can begin to protect ourselves from those who would seek to undermine us. Staying vigilant, trusting our instincts, and maintaining clarity about our own values and goals will help us navigate these complexities and build relationships based on true trust and mutual respect. Thank you all for your attention and engagement today. It's crucial to remember that recognizing falsehood and envy is not just about protecting ourselves. It's about fostering environments where authenticity and honesty thrive. I wish each and every one of you the strength and wisdom to recognize these signs and to continue moving forward with integrity and confidence. Good luck on your journey, and thank you for being here.